Boker Tov, everyone. Chapter 39 is a very interesting chapter. And I think what caught my attention, there are a few topics that it speaks about in this chapter. One is the difference between malachim, angels, and neshamas, souls, or human beings like us that contain within them a soul and neshama. What is the basic difference? Who is more special? Who has an advantage over the other? What is the advantage over the other? Where is the root? Where do we belong to? You know, about angels it says, and that's very interesting. It says about the angels that, I'm going to move slightly to the side here. It says about angels that one angel cannot do two missions. And the proof for that is that when Hashem sent the angels to Avram, when he was in pain, how many did he send? 4. 3. Why did he send 3? So it says one was to cure Avram, one was to bless Sarah, and one was to destroy Sodom. Can't one angel carry out all the 3? Apparently not. Why? We will speak about it today. But that is one thing about the angels. I think this is ready. So that is a bit about that's a bit about the angels from one perspective. We'll see a few other topics about the other angels. But there is another interesting idea that is brought here in chapter 39. And it aligns very much with a great story about a Yid, that he was a Baal Agola. A Baal Agola is today a taxi driver, an Uber driver. Then he was a Baal Agola. He had horses. He had one horse. It wasn't such a horse, but it was a Subaru horse. And he had his wagon, and he used to take people from one place to the other. And he comes after Mervesrim to Olam HaEmes, and they tell him, you deserve Gan Eden on a very, very high level. Why? Because he rescued. So that's another word. But he rescued a Jewish family. There was a Jewish family that were traveling. They were stuck in the mud, and he rescued them. He took them out of that place. So he was zeichet to Gan Eden. So he goes up to Gan Eden, and he sees all the tzaddikim around the table, and each tzaddik is sharing divrei Torah, and they're learning a sugya, and then they're learning another sugya, and it's mamish, it's like Gan Eden. Unbelievable, they are enjoying themselves. But he doesn't feel part of the conversation. Doesn't really know what's going on over there. So he goes to the angel in charge, and he tells the angel in charge, listen, I want you to move me to a different place. I want you to get me a nice wagon with 6 horses, and I want to drive that. Until this very day, he's driving 6 horses in Gan Eden. What's that story about? The point of that story is that there are certain things that we belong to and other things that we do not belong to. We all have a certain shayachut to something. We cannot recreate our shayachut. Sometimes it's like pretty much anything. You know, if you take a simple person and you put him at a fine dining restaurant, and he sees the small piece that and it tastes like he doesn't like that. He wants his fast food, and that's what he's going to enjoy. He's not going to enjoy anything else. And someone that's on the other side that's used to fine dining, so if you give him fast food, he's not going to enjoy that.
Nouvelle cuisine.
What is that? What does that mean?
Nouvelle cuisine is exactly the French cuisine. When you have very, very, very little pieces.
Ah, small pieces.
Yes. Maybe you get 7 different plates, but they're all like this.
Very small, right.
Very small.
So you've got to be a certain personnel to enjoy such a thing. Many other people might not enjoy that. So that idea means that each and every one of us, we have a certain connection to a certain level. Soon we will see how this is applicable to our Avodas Hashem. but we all have a neshama, and that neshama is connected to a certain root that needs something suitable for it. So it's not that we are going to enjoy driving cars in Gan Eden, and that's not what we're going to get. But even in Gan Eden itself, there are different levels, different worlds. For example, Gan Eden Ha'elyon, Gan Eden HaTachton. Have you ever heard of Gan Eden Ha'elyon and HaTachton? There's the higher level of Gan Eden, there's the lower level of Gan Eden. What is the difference between the two? Who deserves Gan Eden Ha'elyon, the higher level of Gan Eden? Who deserves Gan Eden HaTachton? How does that work? Is it about the amount of mitzvahs that I did? So this is all in our chapter.
Well, we won't be together.
Let's see chapter 39, right at the beginning. Hanoch, please read for us. We'll start off with the first paragraph. It is also
for this reason that the ancients are called Chayot, beasts, and Behemoth, cattle, as it is written, and the face of a lion on the right side and the face of an ox on the left side. For they have no freedom of choice, and their fear and love and their natural instincts, as stated in the Raya Mehumna on Parsha.
the Raya Mehemna, which is the Zohar, basically. That's the Zohar, yeah.
Therefore, the quality of tzaddikim is superior to theirs, for the abode of the souls of the righteous is in the world of Berea, whereas the abode of angels in the world of Yetzirah.
Yeah, Femod, thank you. So here we see, and this is very interesting, that the Alter Rebbe tells us that if we take a look at the Nevi'im, the prophets, and we take a look at the way that Chazal, our scholars, describe angels, they use terms of animals. Like it says, Pnei Aryeh el Hayamin, Pnei Shor el Asmael. Why did the Jews, after Matan Torah, create a golden calf? Where did they come up with the idea of a calf? They could have created anything else.
The vision.
What was the vision?
When
Yefemod. When Hashem revealed himself on Mount Sinai, so one of the things that they saw is Kisei HaKavod, the royal chair of Hashem. And on that chair, as the Navi, if I'm not mistaken, it's Navi Yechezkel describes, there's a lion to the one side and there's an ox to the other side. So they created a calf, an eged, but that's where it comes from. So whether it's physical or not, that's a whole different discussion. We're not going to speak about it today. But the idea is, and the question is why does Chazal describe angels, holy angels, as animals? Not that there's nothing wrong with animals, but wouldn't you want to describe them on a higher level, as humans perhaps?
Is that Kochi?
Okay, so yeah, these are all the things that we're going to speak about now. The difference between the angels and humans. So here specifically speaks about instinct. The animal's behavior is driven from instinct. That is mostly what an animal behaves according to the instinct, which if we would compare that roughly to what we feel, it's based on emotions, right? The same way that we instinctively have a certain feeling, or we are afraid of something, or we feel close to something, or we like something, or we dislike something, that is based sometimes on instinct. And that same thing is with the animals. They are not logical, which means they didn't need to think through a certain process. And even the idea of searching for water, for example, or wandering in the fields to find more food or water, that's all not based on the thought that, you know what, perhaps there's no water over here. But maybe, if you think about it, there's a good chance that there's water 10 kilometers away. They do the same action, but that is driven from instinct, not from a logical resolution. And that is similar. We had this discussion in the past. You told me once that there's like a TV show or a movie that they did showing how the monkey discovered something like that. So it's first of all, it's very, very rare. So it could be that certain animals have a bit more of an intelligent ability to learn. But mostly it's an instinct, right? When you go to the zoo, when you go to a circus. So they say that the American Navy has dolphins and sea lions that dive, discover submarines, and place bombs on those submarines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that's like mamish part of the Navy. It's not because they are trained. And why do they do that? It's not that they were explained, this is a country that does not favor you. Now, if the Japanese conquer us, they're going to be hunting you. So you better help our army to prevent the Japanese from invading. It doesn't work that way, right? This is just an example. But the way that it works is that they give them fish. They give them fish, and they go according to their instinct. And they know that they're going to get a prize for that. That's their instinct. They're driven to it automatically. There is no thinking process. There is no logical process. So for that reason, angels are compared to animals, because angels also act according to instinct. What does that mean, that angels behave according to instinct? The angels, they basically, they are programmed to act in a certain way. They do not love Hashem, for example, or they do not fear Hashem because of their understanding that this is what's right to do. But because they have a natural love that is planted within them. The same way as the dolphins like fish, and the moment you give them fish, they will do all these acrobatic actions. In that same way, an angel has this natural instinct to love Hashem or to fear Hashem. So that is why the Nevi'im, the prophets, compared angels to specifically the Chai, to animals, and not to humans, because we'll see that humans are different. Let's skip the note. We'll continue.
Exactly the concept of what you say.
It's not. There are, in the note, he says that there are certain angels that they are connected also to logic, to understanding as well.
Animals.
Perhaps there are some animals that also, we speak about the majority. The majority.
Does the inverse apply to people?
Sorry, does the
inverse apply to people?
What do you mean?
They behave only by instinct and not by logic?
Oh, there are people that are controlled more by the instinct.
Okay.
But that they could use it. They could use their logic as well.
Would you call them beasts?
Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. But that is not because they don't have the ability. That's because they behaved in a certain way for many, many years, and they grew this beast that's within them. They made the beast in control. So they cannot think logically, well, this is not good for me.
Nefesh behemoth.
Nefesh habahamis, exactly. So the more we feed the nefesh habahamis, this is part of avodas Hashem, feed the nefesh elokis, the more the nefesh elokis will be in charge. You know, sometimes we say or we think that we cannot control thoughts. No, I'm not talking about controlling thinking about the thought, the pop-ups that pop into your mind. So yes, the truth is that we cannot control them. We are not responsible of the thoughts that pop into our mind. But the rule is that the more you feed the godly soul, the more the thoughts that will pop into your mind are going to be connected to the godly soul, because he's dominant. He's the main focus in the day. And the more a person feeds nefesh habahamis, the more that will be his mindset. So that's an important, because it has to do sometimes with our feeling about avodas Hashem. We say to ourselves, well, we're never going to be able to control our thoughts that pop into our mind. It's going to make everything much more complicated. Yes, it's going to be much more difficult, much more complicated. But Welcome, Bruchim Abed.
Thank you.
Very nice. So yes, perhaps we cannot 100% control these thoughts, but again, the more we feed the godly soul, the more we will connect to the godly ideas. Let's continue. This is the third paragraph, right after the note. I want to ask Ovadia to please read for us the difference.
The difference between them is that the word Yetzirah, in the world of Yetzirah, only the midot of the blessed Ein Sof shine forth, namely the love of him and the dread and fear of him, as is stated in the Tikkonim and in Etz Chaim, that the sixth Sefirot nest in the world of Yetzirah. Therefore, it is the constant service of the angels, resting neither by day nor by night, to stand in fear and dread, these being the pole of Gabriel on the left, while the service of the camp of Michael is with love. But in the world of Beria, shine forth the Chokmah, Binah, and Dat, and the blessed and Sof, which are the source of the Midot and their mother and root, as stated in the Tikkonim, that Ima Elah nests in the three Sefirot in the divine throne, which is the world of Beria. Therefore, this is the abode of the souls of the righteous, who serve God with fear and love, which are derived from the understanding and knowledge of the greatness of the blessed Ein Sof. For this love is called Re'ulta Deliba, as has already been heart's desire, as has already been mentioned. And from this heart's desire is produced a garment for the soul in the world of Beria, which constitutes the higher Garden of Eden, as will be explained later, and is written in the Zohar on Parshat Vayikra.
Thank you. So here we go. By the way, we're going to start speaking about the worlds, the different worlds that we always hear about in the Kabbalah. Olam HaTzilut, Olam HaBriya, Olam HaYetzirah, and Olam HaAsiyah. These are 4 different worlds that we will discuss today as well. Back to what we spoke about, I'm going to take a question in a second, the difference between the angels and the neshamot, or specifically, why can an angel only do one mission? Why can't he carry out several missions? So that is because it is connected to his natural instinct. So so let's say, for example, Malach Michael, who is known as the Malach of Chesed, of kindness, of good, can he be sent to destroy Sodom? Well, no. Why? You might sit for an hour with Malach Michael and explain to Malach Michael that this city has been rebellious, and this city does not welcome guests. And this city has, not only that, but this city has been doing many other Averos. Well, in that case, Lav Dafka, that Malach Michael is going to be convinced, because he's not based on logic and on understanding. He is based on his feelings and emotions. So he has only one tool. And this is the tool of emotion, of instinct. So he can only basically go and do things of kindness. This is his natural starting point. On the other hand, when we speak about neshamas, when we speak about souls, the neshamas, they have to do with the world of Bria, which is the world we'll see soon. That is the world of logic, of understanding, of intelligence. And that's why the neshama can do what we call bechira chofshit sometimes, or it can even combine 2 feelings and emotions that contradict each other. And this is something that us humans, we can be. If you take a lion, even if you convince the lion not to hunt, the lion is still going to hunt. Why? Because that's the instinct of the lion. A human being, you can one day convince him that this is the best way for him to make a living, and another day, some other way might be better to make a living. We have this ability to change from one mood to the other. Why? Because there's a source that can influence the emotions, and that is the mind. the Sechel, the Chokhmah, Binah, and Dat. And this is connected to the different worlds, by the way. So briefly he speaks about it towards the end, but there are 4 different worlds. And Yaakov, before we go to the worlds, I want to take your question, because the worlds is like a new...
It says that Chokhmah Binah Dat are rooted in Bria.
Yes.
But we say, הנפש השנית בישראל היא נפש מאלוקה ממש.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it is Bria, how can it be mamash?
Yes, it's a very good question. And we'll speak about it right now. This is the point. So there are 4 different worlds: Arba Olamot, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. What is the difference between these worlds? So we're going to slowly but surely, we're going to explain the definition of these worlds, even by tefillah. Our davening is divided into 4 parts. We'll see which parts. Torah that we learn, there are also 4 parts to the Torah. And in the neshama, there are also 4 parts. There's even 5 parts, but we'll speak about 4 parts that the neshama is also divided into according to these 4 worlds. So what are the 4 worlds? Atzilus, what does Atzilus mean? Atzilus comes from the word Etzlo, by me. So Hashem is saying that he created a world that is by him. And what is the definition of that world? That world is Olam Habitul, the world of nullification. It's so close to Hashem that anyone that exists over there doesn't really feel that it exists, because it's under the impression of Hashem, under Hashem's light. The light is so heavy and so intense that everything there is nullified. So it's as if there is no real Metziut. It's the beginning of creation. That's the highest world. It's the beginning of creation. The first world that Hashem introduced was a world that was very much under his influence, under Hashem's influence. By the way, in the part of Torah, what is that world? We have Kabbalah, Pnimiyut Torah. When someone learns Pnimiyut Torah, he's learning always about Hashem. So there's much more of a feeling of nullification. Why? If you open a Gemara page, you'll see that the Gemara speaks about an argument between 2 people over a talus, or over a donkey, or over a chav, and it could be that even one of them is lying.
You mean the sod, right?
Sorry?
You mean the sod?
The sod of the Torah, yeah. The sod of the Torah. What is the sod of the Torah? So it doesn't speak about merivot. If we open the Zohar, it's not about argument. It's not about halachic questions. It's more speaking about Hashem. It's like, by the way, they say that the part of Agadata in the Gemara, if you read the Agadata, which are the stories, the Gemara, there are no arguments over there. There are very big secrets hidden within the stories of Rabbi Bar Chana and Baba Basra, and story of Kam Rabbi Shachtel Rav Zera, which is very appropriate to our times now that we are preparing for Purim. There's a whole story about Rabbi and Rav Zera having a Seudas Purim together. And in the middle of that Seudah, towards the end, it says that Rabbi stood up and shechted Rav Zera. And he davened to Hashem. He was able to bring him back to life. What is the meaning of that story? How could he do it? And not only that, but it says that the following year, Rabbi suggested Rav Zera, and he told him, let's have another Seudah together again. Rav Zera said, no, not every year. I can guarantee a miracle. So that's there's a sod. There's definitely a sod to that. Maybe sometime we'll go into the Rebbe Sikh, and it's actually also the Ben Yehoyada speaks about it. Very, very interesting. That whole topic. So yeah. So that is when we speak about Olam Atzilut in Torah, what does that mean, Olam Atzilus, when we connect to Olam Atzilus? And that's why, again, we spoke about that story of a person that went to Gan Eden and he wanted horses instead of discussions in Torah. So also in Gan Eden, if someone spent the majority of his life learning Sod, so when he will go to Gan Eden, what is his reward going to be? What is his Gan Eden? His Gan Eden is more sod. That will be his Gan Eden. That's what his neshama is going to benefit and enjoy, because that's what he's connected to. It's not that there's nothing wrong about a person
The
that
connection of everybody depends from the in.
also, yes. That's one of the things that each one has a certain chelek that he has to elevate, that he has to use. Yeah. Let's take, for example, davening. So in davening, we have Psukei de Zimra, we have Shema, we have Birkas Kriya Shema. We've got, of course, the Korbanot. That's already, it's mitzad Lechaira, it's mitzad Talmud Torah or other things. But per se, the Tefillah starts with Psukei de Zimra. So what is the world of Atzilus there? Tefillah Shmona Esrei. Shmona Esrei Amida, we stand up at a higher level of nullification. We are addressing the king himself. Psukei de Zimra is a preparation.
Why are we standing like angels, like being on one foot?
Yeah.
Which means you are not mehalef.
So
And you are not
Yeah.
mehalef also, not physically.
it's not that we erase the part of the Mahalech. It's the Mahalech reaching such a high level that he becomes nullified, bibitul. That's the highest level, because he has the ability not to be bibitul. The angel doesn't even have the ability to not to be bibitul. He has to be bibitul. Okay, so that is the world of Atzilut. Then we go down to the a lower world, which is Olam Habriya. After Hashem created Olam Hatzilus comes Olam Habriya. What is Olam Habriya? So Olam Habriya is usually described as the beginning of existence. And that is the world of intelligence, of logic, of seichel, of chachma, bina, and das. That is connected to the world of Bria. And there's a, for example, in davening, the Shema, that is the part that belongs to that world. What is Shema? Shema Yisrael, our understanding that Hashem is truly one. Shema is Havana. Shema, listen. Listen means you don't see it. You listen, you understand it. That's the idea of Shema, of listening. And if we speak about in Torah, by the way, Talmud, Gemara is considered to be from Olam Habriya. It's very interesting. Mishnah comes from Olam HaYetzirah. Even though Mishnah was before the Gemara, and the Gemara is driven from the Mishnah. But because the Gemara involves intelligence and understanding much more, you've got to really understand what is the reason of the Mishnah. So that's why it's connected more to the idea of Bria, which is Bina. In the Spheres, it's considered the world of Bina.
But
Yeah.
we consider those words, levels,
Yes.
from the higher to
Right.
the bottom.
Right.
So why is intelligence inferior coming from Yetzirah and not from Bria?
Intelligence is from Bria. Intelligence is Olam HaBria. Yeah.
No, but you said that Mishnah,
The Mishnah, because the Mishnah is not real intelligence. The Mishnah is more pure. For example, the Hasidim.
yes, it's more pure. It should be higher.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. So it's not necessarily according to that. There has to be some correlation within the idea itself of what Mishnah is and what Gemara is. Mishnah involves less the intelligence. It's more about the midas. It's more about the emotions. That's what it's usually compared to. That's Olam HaYetzirah.
It's about superior reality.
I'll give you another example. So it's a good point. What's higher, an angel or a human?
Human.
An angel is much higher. He's always devoted and connected to Hashem.
Yes, but he hasn't got the Chilat Kodshit.
Okay, so that's an advantage that the human has that he can use to reach a higher level. But who is lechatchila more on a pure level? Who is more pure?
Mm-hmm.
The angel, even though the angels come from a lower world of Yetzirah.
Okay.
So that's the idea. It's not always 100% there's two sides to each part. So on the one hand, the neshamas, because we are driven by intellect and by understanding, so that's why we belong to Olam Habriya, to the world that is based on intelligence, on understanding. But then the angels, they're much more pure. They come from a lower world. It's pure. It's like a child, right? Compared to an adult. So there's something pure about the child. But on the other hand, he's not on the same level. You're not going to rely on him 100%, even though his intentions are keen and pure. So that is the difference between the worlds. So we've got Atzilus, which the definition of the world of Atzilus is bitul, is nullification. That is the idea of Olam Atzilus. We've got Bria, which is the world of understanding, of Bina, of logic. And that's where we start feeling ourselves, because we use our intelligence to connect to Hashem. So it's a very high level. We are able to control our emotions, but still it's driven based on our understanding. And then we have Yetzirah, which is the lower world, where that is where the Malachim belong, because the Yetzirah is the world of emotion. It's Olam HaRegesh, it's the feelings. Angels or instinct, for example. Angels are based on the world of instinct, of their emotions. That's why Malach Michael, he can only do kindness and chesed. And Malach Gabriel does din. By the way...
The Satan?
Sorry?
And the Satan?
I think that's something else. That's a different type of creation that Hashem created. It's only to lift us up. There's no real existence.
Came to the world with Etzadat? No, it came before Etzadat.
Yeah, it came before. That's Nachash Kadmoni. Came before. And then we've got with the world of Asiya. The world of Asiya, that is basically a very technical world. That is where there's Asiya Ruchanit, but this is where we are today. Asiya Gashmis, the material part of Olam HaAsiya, which is connected to the Ma'aseh, to the action. There's not much feeling. A person can survive here without emotions. It's not something, sometimes people don't use their intellect, they don't use their emotions, but they're practical. They just do. And that's good enough. So why are we speaking about all these different worlds? It's first of all to categorize the difference between the Shamot and Malachim. So Malachim are very holy, but they come from the world of Yetzirah that is based on instinct and emotion, feelings. By the way, with the Neshama also has that part which is the Ruach. The Ruach of the Neshama means the emotions of the Neshama. And then we have the Neshamas themselves, which is the part of the Neshama that is one of the 5 levels, and that is the world of intellect, the world of understanding. That's a higher world, and that's the difference in each. Now, some people, and this is known, and that's basically perhaps the original story of that Baal Agala, that the Baal Agala basically wanted something else. He didn't want to sit with the Talmidei Chachamim and learn. That is because each neshama has its own mission in the world. Sometimes one person is Baal Marei Uvdin Tovin, and this is well known in the times of the Baal Shem Tov. That's when the Baal Shem Tov himself introduced this whole shitta, because this is Hasidus. People used to look down at other simple Yidden that didn't learn all day, or they didn't have the time, the ability, the parnasa. They used to look down at them. So the Baal Shem Tov said, you cannot do it. That is the source of the neshama that this person is connected to. So that is his mission. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what Hashem wants him to do during this period of time. And that's okay. That's where his shayachut is. That's where his connection is. Some person has a specific connection to one part of the Torah, Gemara. And if he would open a Tanya, he would say, I don't understand what's going on here. And there were a few people that I met that they told me that they didn't connect to the Tanya, something there. So I think that to a certain level, everyone can understand Tanya, and everyone should learn part of that. But even today, it's unbelievable to see the Litvaks that sit and learn Tanya. They have a test in Binyanei Uma once a year. It's unbelievable to see thousands and thousands. So yes, to a certain level, we can find a connection. It's like someone says, I never open a Daf Gemara. That's also not, we've got to also open a Daf Gemara. It's also very interesting. We can learn a lot from that. It says that the Hasidim, some of the Hasidim, they used to learn a Daf Gemara before davening, because that also purifies a person. So the point that the Alter Rebbe is saying over here is that there are several worlds, and each neshama, generally speaking, our neshamas are connected to Bria. Sometimes they also go to other places, like a person that's very emotional. That's his connection to Hashem, an emotional connection.
Don't forget the simple stuff.
Yes,
Civic sport.
right. And that's what we spoke about previously in the previous prakim, Hamasehu Ha'ikar, that building for Hashem a home here in this world is mainly done through action. That's why we are in Olam Asiyah, and we are not stuck in Olam Abriya. Olam Abriya is the reward for the neshama for achieving what it achieves here in this world. Let's continue with the fourth paragraph. I would like to ask Yaakov Baruch please to read for us, but this applies.
But this applies specifically to neshamot, which possess a very combination with the dweller of the blessed and so. As for the category of ruach of the righteous, as also all other souls for Israelites are absorbed out with fear and love that are latent in the heart of all Jews, these do not ascend either, except on the Shabbat in the Nimun by means of the pillar that rises from the lower to the higher garden of the Eden. That is the world of Levi and the higher garden of Eden, wherein to take pleasure in God and derive enjoyment from the splendor of the Shekhinah. So the intellect of the creative being can have no enjoyment or pleasure except in what it conceives, understands, knows, and apprehends. Its intellect and apprehension. But it's possible for it to understand and grasp the light of the blessed and soft, by virtue of his blessed wisdom and understanding which shine forth in the word of Moriah.
Yefé. It's interesting. So here, and also in the last paragraph, he speaks a bit about Gan Eden Ha'elyon and Gan Eden Ha'tachton. What is the difference between these two levels of heaven? So one level of heaven is connected to the world of Yetzirah. Another level of heaven is connected to the world of Bria, which is the higher world. And by the way, yes, there is a higher level of pleasure with by Olam Bria. That's the way that it is. And the neshama, so if someone here was serving Hashem in an emotional way, and that's what he was mostly involved in.
Wrestler.
Yeah, for example, we can bring that as an example. And there are many other also individuals that within other Hasidiyot, but they also serve Hashem with a focus on the emotions. So in that case, the Gan Eden that they will receive is Gan Eden HaTafton, which is the lower level of Gan Eden. That's the level of Yetzirah. And then it says that on Shabbos, and by the way, this is why we say, Motzei Shabbos, we say Vihi Noyam. And Yoshe B'Seisa. And we repeat twice, in the last verse, we repeat that twice. Why? It's because until that moment, the neshamas, they reach a higher level. So neshamas that are in Gehenom, they go to Gan Eden for Shabbos. And we want to give them a few more minutes. So we repeat the last verse twice. And then neshamas that are in Gan Eden HaTachton, in the lower level of Gan Eden, which means they are in the world of Yetzirah, they on Shabbos are able to reach the Olam HaBriya, the higher world. Right? So the question is, how can they reach a level that they're not connected to, that they're not part of? Right? It's that same Baal Agala, that same taxi driver, that suddenly they put him in a table with people that are speaking about Atzilus, and he doesn't even understand what's going on. That's not what he's going to enjoy. So the truth is that even him he has a huge madreg, and he gets a special reward for that. He gets a special reward because in this world he had to submit the nefesh habahamis. So it's not just like an angel that automatically is He has this natural love to Hashem or natural fear from Hashem. And that's why he's connected to that. Well, no, here, even to serve Hashem with emotion, it's not that easy because we had to fight the Nefesh Bahamas. So even, let's say, Hasid Breslev, or any other Hasid that uses mainly his emotions, wait a second, he had to fight the Yetzer Hara. And there's a story about this, that there was once a Choser B'Tshuva, about Tshuva, that he started the ways of Tshuva, and he was inspired very much at the beginning. And at the beginning, things were easy. It was easy to keep Shabbos, it was easy to keep Kashrus, it was easy to respect others, etc., etc. But after several months, he sees that things are not that simple. It's not going in such an easy way. The Yetzer Hara is knocking on the door, bringing up memories, bringing up old friends. And he came to his rabbi. He was very, very upset. Came to his rabbi. Told him, how am I going to deal with this? This is going to be my life from now onwards. So the rabbi told him, tell me, what are one of your hobbies? What do you like? What do you take interest in? So he tells him, I take interest in art a lot. I like to visit museums. I like to see pieces of art. Tells him, tell me, what is your best piece of art? So he says, there's this drawing, painting of Van Gogh, of one of his famous paintings of the sunset or whatever it is. And he says, I can walk sunflowers. And I can look at that for hours. I see each flower, and I see the sun, and I see everything there. Wow, it's unbelievable. And he goes explaining to the rabbi about this. He says, how much does that cost? Wow, that picture, if you get the original drawing, could be quite a few millions. So he says, tell me, if you go outside to a field and you would take a picture of the sunset on the field, would it come out nice? So he says, yes, it will come out very accurate. How much is that worth? Maybe a couple of dollars. So he says, tell me, how could it be that something that is more accurate is worth much less than a painting that is less accurate? So he laughed. He said, of course, there's no neshama in it. There's no investment in it. There's no soul in it. And that is the big difference. So the rabbi told him, that is exactly your story. Yes, there are angels that for them it is easy, and there are no challenges at all, and everything is smooth, but that's like a picture. It's there. You're not going to get a great reward for it. But on the other hand, if you put in your soul, your neshama, and you invest your time, and you invest a lot of energy in serving Hashem, that is like a painting of Van Gogh. That's something that is special, that there's meaning to it, that there's a point behind it. And that is something that Hashem favors very much. So let's say this person did not do much. He was a simple person, service of Hashem. He also gets to Gan Eden or Elyon from time to time. Why does he get that reward? Hashem has to create for him the understanding of the secrets of the Torah so he can enjoy it and understand what's going on around the table. It's a special added reward. Why does he get that reward? Maybe he should just get the reward for the small amount that he did. If it was by emotion, so emotional. If it was just simply serving Hashem for those simple actions, so that's the world of Asiyah, which is the lowest level of Gan Eden, Asiyah Rufnis. But Hashem says, no, you had to fight in the world. You had to submit the Nefesh Bahamas. For that, you will get a special reward. So generally speaking, yes, we all have a certain route that we are connected to. But, so maybe we won't meet up all the time together. But from time to time, we have a reunion. Why? Because we had to work very hard here in this world. So that is the other part of the story, basically, of the Neshamot. And here we'll see, this is what the Alter Rebbe is going to continue now, the next paragraph. Tzemach, would you like to read for us the last paragraph on the first page?
As for the reason that these souls merit to ascend higher than the angels, even though their service has been with no more than natural fear and love, it is that through their fear and love, the Sitra Atma, which was clothed in their body, was subdued. Those in the realm of depart from evil by subjugating and breaking the passions, and in the realm of do good, as discussed earlier. For they had the freedom to choose evil, God forbid, yet they chose the good in order to subdue the Sitra Atma, thereby elevating the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, as the excellence of light discussed above.
Yes, Samuel. So that's exactly the idea. That because we had to increase in light, for that reason there is a special reward to those neshamot. Yeshar koach. Let's continue the next paragraph, starting with however. Avram.
However, all this is concerned with the abode of the soul and the station, but the prayer and service are actually absorbed into 10 sefirot, which are a category of godliness in which the light of the blessed Ein Sof unites itself in perfect unison. That is to say, in the 10 sefirot of Vidya, through intelligent fear and love, and the 10 sefirot of Yetzirah, through natural fear and love. In them are clothed the 10 sefirot of Atzilut, emanation, and are completely united with them, while the 10 sefirot of Atzilut are absolutely united with their emanator, blessed and so. The souls, on the other hand, are not absorbed into the godliness of the 10 sefirot, but are stationed in the NACHLAOT, palaces, and abodes of Bediah, or Yetzirah, enjoying the effulgence of the Shekinah, the light of the blessed Ein Sof, which is united with the 10 sefirot of Bediah, or Yetzirah, in being with the glow of their very Torah and service, Zohar, by Eichel 2:10. For the reward of a commandment is the commandment itself.
Yeah, fair amount. Okay, so this is a bit more advanced than here. The Alter Rebbe is teaching us something very important about the difference between the Torah and the neshamas themselves. And I'll tell you a story about Rabbi Meir's rabbi, the famous Rabbi Meir from the Mishnah. And the Gemara tells us that there was once a time that his rabbi was called Elisha ben Avuya. And Elisha ben Avuya, unfortunately, he went off the derech of Hashem, and he did a certain sin on purpose. If I'm not mistaken, that was on Shabbos.
On the horse.
On the horse, right? And since he did that sin, the Gemara does not refer to him as Elisha ben Avuya, but as Acher. Acher. That's his name. They didn't want to mention him. And this is very interesting, this idea. There are places that, first of all, Rabbi Meir's opinion himself is based on his rabbi's opinion, because that's how it was. Torah used to be passed not by handwriting, but it was passed from one rabbi to the next, from a previous generation to the younger generation. So a lot of Rabbi Meir's Torahs that he says and his opinions are basically Elisha ben Avuya. Do we dismiss it?
No.
Do we erase Elisha ben Avuya's places where it does bring his opinion? No, not at all. How come? Why so? There's a difference between the Torah and the person. The Torah is holy, it is Kodesh Kodashim. And that's why what the Alter Rebbe says is that the Torah itself unites with the world of Atzilus, the highest world, and not only the world of Atzilus, but the light of the world of Atzilus. Every world there are two parts to the world. There's that light, and it's connected to Yechida. There's the light of the world, and there's the vessels that they basically form from the light. They form a world, the world of emotion. So the world of emotion, for example, there is the idea that the world has, for example, an outburst of emotion, but then you want to make it practical, you want to direct it. So that is the kalim, that's the vessels. This is roughly speaking the difference between the oir and the kalim, the light, which is much more pure, and then there's the kalim that they define and direct the light to a certain direction. They form out of the light some kind of idea, basically. And what happens is that the Torah itself does not only connect to the world of Atzilus or to the world of Bria. It connects to the godly part, to the pure godly part within that world itself. And for example, it says that Rabbi Meir, after he passed away, so it says that they didn't want to bring him to the Beis Din Shel Maila. Why? Because it's a very bad matzav to be in. And Rabbi Meir said, "Mutav delidaine." Rabbi Meir said that it's better for him to be judged, even though it's going to be such a severe punishment. And after Rabbi Meir passed away, they saw. They didn't see the neshama. The Gemara says that they saw the smoke coming out of his grave, and that was a sign that they brought him into Gehenna.
No,
Rabbi Meir?
Not Rabbi Meir. Acher. But when Rabbi Meir passed away, that happened because that's when he could bring his idea in front of Beis Din Shel Maila.
I think the contrary. I thought that they said it was going to Gan Eden.
No.
He was pardoned.
So he was pardoned by bringing him to Gehenna. That means that.
Please don't be pardoned.
So that's it. That's the chiddush, that it's better for the neshama to go through Gehenna to purify the neshama, so then it can reach the higher world. Because Gehenna is not the final destination.
No. Gehenna is not the final destination for us. And what for the goyim?
Also, it's not a final destination.
So it is coming back?
No, lavdavka. It has to be a
nun.
Has to be a Hasid Umot Haolam.
I was speaking of Hitler.
So he's not. So he's not going to come back. But maybe he's all the time there. Gehenna is not. It's not a. There's no existence to him. Bad is not going to be punished. Bad is going to, when it will come time, so bad will be extinguished completely. But there's no point in just an endless punishment. Now, probably until that happens.
Right down the street, though.
Sorry? There's the Gay Ben Hinnom. It's not far from here.
There is a bridge there.
The new bridge.
Yeah. Have you been there?
No, but I plan to go there.
I passed
Come
through.
right up on Mount Zion.
Yeah. When you walk up, you can see, but there's nothing special there.
Man, have you seen the bridge?
Yeah, I've been there. It's not worth it.
I don't have to walk the bridge. I just see the bridge.
Yeah.
Take a picture. Yeah. Passing over if you haven't.
Have you been to
Sometimes.
Schindler's grave?
Not this trip.
No.
Oh, is it? Sure. It's right across from the.
From diaspora.
Yes, right.
I was sitting there waiting for a bus one day with Rabbi Perfect. And there must be a stable down below there because this person came riding up on a donkey up the hill. I could flip it, feel him.
So, but the idea in the Rechavia extension, so the Torah thought are not just a connection or a way to connect. They take a life of their own, separate from whoever.
Yeah. Schar mitzvah hiya mitzvah atzma. That's the idea, that the reward of the mitzvah is also the mitzvah itself. So, in other words, yes, the mitzvah itself, it's a godly light that when we do, so first of all, we connect, but we connect only to the external part of that world. We connect to the kalim, to the world as it's already formed. so to speak, to the parable of the world. But the Torah and mitzvahs, they're so pure that connects to Hashem. Like the mitzvahs, sometimes, for example, and they say that sometimes also the benefit that a simple person has over a Talmid Chacham. That it's like the difference between a minister of the king and the servant of the king. So the minister can advise the king, can explain to the king. It's much more of a close, intimate relationship. Wow. And that's the Talmid Chacham. When he basically learns Torah, he's connecting to the mind of Hashem. It's a very close connection. On the other hand, a person that does a basic and simple mitzvah, so give me a cup of water. But he fulfills the king's desire, the king's ratzon. And what happens to that cup of water? So there are two parts. The king consumes the cup of water, and that's the mitzvah itself that connects to the light in that world. And then there's the fact that the servant was able to connect to the king in a deep way, to fulfill his desire ratzon. So there are two parts. There's the mitzvah itself, schar mitzvah, which is connected to the light of the mitzvah, and that's connected directly to the light of Hashem. And then there's, okay, what if we think about what happened here when we did this mitzvah? So we'll come to a conclusion that a simple person that was created and that he's material, he was able to fulfill the king's desire. And that creates a relationship between us and Hashem. So that's the difference between these, between the two parts of a mitzvah. That's why, okay, we'll speak next year about mitach shaloi lishma balishma, that even if we do certain mitzvahs without the right intention, what happens to those mitzvahs?
It's like studying Torah just for the sake of Torah.
Just for the sake of a smart book that sharpens our mind, not to fulfill the mitzvah or not to connect to Hashem. Yeah, so we'll see that Bezrat Hashem next year.
Is there any punishment